Hey guys, welcome back. Today we'll be discussing a very important concept in almost all programming languages to exist, that is file handling and why is file handling used. So we know that file handling is a way of manipulating data or information that is stored on your disk, but using a programming language to access that file or that data and to manipulate, edit it, etc. So let's just remember how in C, for example, the process of creating a file and then manipulating it and then appending and everything, it was a very long and lengthy task. And of course, Python just had to make it easier for us. And so in this video, we'll be discussing a bit about Python and how it manipulates file and how is file handling done in Python. So if we one thing about Python is that it treats files as either text file or a binary file. I mean, this is the two formats that Python takes a file as, and you can also import other files, for example Excel CSV files, and you have specific options for them: read CSV, read Excel, etc., that allows you to read and manipulate those files specifically. But for a simple text file or a simple binary file, we just use the file is equals to open method, and it's a built-in function and it takes two arguments. The first argument is the directory or the path to that file, and the second is the mode in which you want to open the file. Now what is the mode? The mode is basically the access mode, that is, when by default, if you write no, if you do not give the second argument, that is if you do not give a mode, okay, so it will just by default open it in the read mode. And what does the read mode just do? It basically just acknowledges if the file even exists or not, right? And similarly, there is the W mode, which stands for write mode, and it opens the file in writing mode, but it will also create a file if it does not already exist. It will give you an error because it will say you're trying to write in a file that does not exist, but simultaneously it will also create that file for you side by side. And then there is another option, append, which is basically used to append or add data to a file and to an already existing file. It's just like, you've written a file and you're like, oh okay, damn, I remember I have to add something else as well, and then you add some more data into that file. So this is the concept of file handling in Python, and there are many sort of different options that you can do in file handling, and we will check out some of these. So as we discussed, R means to read, so it opens a file for read only operation, and the file pointer exists at the beginning. The file is by default open in this mode if no access mode is passed. This is what I was trying to tell you. If in that built-in function for file is equals to open, you just give the directory and you do not give any access mode, or you do not give the second argument for the mode, it will by default take read as its default access mode. Okay. RB means it opens the file to read only in binary format. Now what is a binary format? The binary format is basically the 1-0 format, and it's different from a text file or a normal file because that contains a sequence of characters. A sequence of characters is, sentences, paragraphs, many things, okay? But a binary file is a file that has data in the 1-0 format, and if you try to open a text file with the binary format, it will convert the whole file into binary. So you know the concept of ASCII and how everything is converted, and similarly in that way, when you try to open a file in binary format, it just converts the entire file into a binary format. And I'm not really sure why this mode is used because I haven't read much about it, but it does exist. Now the R plus mode, if you write, it opens the file to read and write both, which means that you're acknowledging the file's existence, and you're saying, okay, hold up, you know open the file for writing mode. And whenever a file is opened, you should also remember that it's important to close a file, especially if there has been some sort of changes done to the file. Otherwise those changes will not be saved, and it will treat it as some volatile action, and once you close the program, the data in that file is gone as well. RB plus, it opens the file to read and write both in the binary format if it's not very obvious. W is the file, opens the file to write only, and yes, it overwrites the file if it previously exists or creates a new one if no file exists with the same name. This is what I was trying to tell you guys. And the file pointer begins at the beginning of the file, which means that the start of the page, the start of the file, whatever. WB opens a file to write only in binary format, and it overwrites the file if it previously exists, and it will create a new one. W plus opens the file to read and write both. So you can see it's different from R plus in the sense that, remember, R plus just acknowledges the existence of a file. If a file does not exist, it will tell you, it will give you a traceback error. But if a file does exist and you use the W plus option, the W plus option basically, it will tell you that a file exists, but it will overwrite that file if it already exists. And if it does not exist, it will just give you an error and create a new file anyway. And again, the pointer is at the beginning of the line. W plus opens the file to read and write both in binary format. Again, the same thing as above. A plus opens the file in append mode. That is, if there is already some data in an existing file or in a previously written file, it will move the pointer to the end, and it will allow you to edit the file uh, from the end of the line, from the end of the, you can say, previously written data in the file. And again, if it creates a new file if no file exists with the same name. So basically, one thing about W and A that they share in common, the write and append mode, is that if a file does not exist and if you try to open it in the write or append mode, it will automatically create a new file regardless of its existence. If it does already, however, if uh, for write, if a file does exist and you try to open it with the W mode, it will overwrite it. It won't overwrite it, but it will create a new file if it does not exist. And A plus opens a file to read and append both. So you can basically say that this plus allows you to do read for W and A both. A plus, AB plus, it opens a file to append and read both in binary format. The file pointer remains at the end of the file. So we know that except for W, for A, the file pointer will always be at the end. For W, it will be at the start, which means it will treat the file as a new file that needs something to be written to it. And the difference between read and write mode in, as you might have studied in OS operating systems, that read is basically just acknowledging if the file exists. It does not necessarily mean it will it will read the data in the file for you. You'll have to do that yourself. You'll have to do whatever the variable name is. For example, f is equals to open, and if you want to print whatever is inside of the file, you'll have to write print f dot read. Now this f dot read built-in function will read and display whatever is in that file. So that's it about file handling, and in the next videos, one by one, we'll go on and check out these different access modes, the R mode, the W mode, and the A mode, and the rest we will practice, but on by our own, not with me. So thank you for this, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.